Welcome to Beyond the Check, the first industry podcast related to Web3 fund investments brought to by BlockSapiens, a leader in fund of funds and venture capital investments. We bring you exclusive interviews with industry experts in private equity, investment banking, business sales, and startup founders' insights. It's our mission to provide clarity to the industry and lift the boundaries of tech investments. In this New Year edition, our host Gauthier Pons de Vincent, managing partner at BlockSapiens, will discuss with top Web3 leaders from the French ecosystem. We welcome our guests, Bilal El Alamy, CEO at Pyratz Labs, Carla Puel, VC investor at Leadblock Partners, and Julien Gakpe, investment analyst at BPI France.
Hello everyone, welcome on Beyond the Check. For this edition, it's going to be in Paris, actually here in Paris with the top Web3 leaders, obviously familiar faces that we know since a long time. First, wanted to thank you, Bilal, for inviting us at Pyratz Labs. Great studio here. I think it's obviously the weather is a bit colder outside, but pretty warm here. Just wanted to start, obviously this roundtable with all of you guys, just introducing yourself, try to understand a bit more about your background and how did you guys get into the industry. Maybe we can start with you, Bilal.
Or ladies first.
Ladies first, actually, yeah.
Yes, thank you for having me. So how did I start about crypto? I guess my first professional experience was in corporate venture capital, Chinese one. And I was working at London at the time, and I was just scouting entrepreneurs, startups for them across tech, and I stumbled on a few entrepreneurs that were working on blockchain projects around payments, remittance. They were all talking about Stellar, and so I was a bit curious and first starting to dig a bit around this, and so that was my first interaction with blockchain in 2017. And then I guess that I came back in France, working in IB. I would still kind of dig around, buy some crypto and look at some protocols and interact with DeFi. And then in 2020, I would know the founders of Leadblock for quite a time, and they had created a fund a year before. And they just had done one investment at the time, and they were looking to expand and continue investing. And so I joined this incredible journey, and now it's going to be 3 years, a bit more than 3 years, and it's been a fun ride.
So you started as an analyst first?
I started as an analyst, and I started at the end of 2020, so kind of got to see the craziness of Web3 and blockchain, and market was going up, and VCs were deploying huge amounts of money in the ecosystem, and then end of or mid of 2022, everything started to going down. So and now hopefully we'll have an exciting year in front of us in 2024. So
yeah, that's definitely the right time to start, because obviously you start during a bull market and then you see everything is going down. Actually, it was the same for me. I started obviously during a bull and bear markets. You understand really the trends and the cycle. But I think I hope you will stay maybe for a longer time in the industry.
Yes.
Exactly. We hope you keep investing. And you, Julien, just if you can give us a bit of the background and how did you get into BPI France?
Yeah, sure, with pleasure. Once again, thanks for having us. Real pleasure to have this discussion with you all. Well, actually, the beginning for me, I've been back in 2014-15 actually with the white paper of Ethereum. I was in preparatory classes, and I was studying a lot of economic. So I was like, okay, this is huge, and I'm convinced that this is going to be a big thing for the just the whole economy. But definitely, I was in preparatory classes, so I didn't have.
Explain what is the preparatory classes? Because
True.
The environment is very very focused and not really trying to understand.
Yeah, you're right. Well, actually, I was just preparing to go into business schools, and so I was preparing to some demanding exams, and so I was studying a lot basically. And so I just had a few times to see a grasp of this white paper, but I knew that okay, this is something that I want to dig, but I didn't have time. So then I was in business school and I had a bit more time and I started to code on my own. I learned how to code. And I went to École 42, which is a coding school, just to know how to code properly. And I created my own website, created my own token at the beginning, and just doing these stuff just on my own.
Your own meme coin.
Well, actually, I didn't sell it. I didn't intend to sell it, and I didn't. But I was like, okay, this is powerful. I mean, we can do a lot of things with this because it changed all of the way of the transaction, any human transaction. So I was like, okay, I need to work in something like that. So my first experience was in a ETF, exchange trade fund. It's called Go In Invest in Paris, and well, it was during the ICO summer.
Okay.
So I learned how to know who is a scam and who is not. And they the owners of the ETF, they were experienced finance guys from HSBC, BNP Paribas. So they were very thoughtful regarding the analysis. So it was a great first step to go into the market. And well, then I wanted to do my classes as a financial guy. So I've done a lot of M&A, merger and acquisition, like investment banking, basically. And one thing is important is that I was into the Avolta Partner investment bank during the Nike takeover of Artifact. And at this point, I was like, okay, so it's possible to have the traditional way, meaning investment banking, and at the same time doing cutting-edge new things or technology. So, well, yeah, and after that, actually, BPI France was this solution. So currently, I'm an investor at BPI France, which is a sovereign fund, but we will go deeper and further later. But basically, I can do what people do in institutional entity, and at the same time, touching and being in the core of this new technology, which is blockchain, Web3, and all of this revolution. So quite good to have done it, and now still a lot of things to do actually. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for the explanation in the background. Maybe you, Bilal?
Yeah, sure. Well, if you can consider them like in private and public investors, I'm definitely a builder. So my first interaction with Bitcoin, I think kind of the first for everyone. I was still at uni, and I've seen a bunch of people that were using Arduino. So an Arduino is a computer to program a small robot. And they were putting in parallel Arduinos, connecting them, and mining Bitcoins. And so I was more attracted by the hardware side of it than the philosophical side of it, which I understood really far after. So I started like doing the same, building some Arduinos to mine Bitcoin. That's my first interaction. I don't remember honestly. It was maybe 2015, 2014, something like that. And obviously I lost everything because I didn't understood what I was really doing. It was really just the hardware one thing. But independently, I graduated in engineering and also in business. I was also attracted by entrepreneurship. And so I created the first company called EquiSafe, which was a B2B SaaS company using a brick of blockchain to certify the investor, shareholders, or the transaction on some private companies' equity. And then further on, since we were quite early in the space, I saw that there was a lot of excitement, but there were a lot of things missing, a lot of technological components, a lot of pedagogical components, a lot of entrepreneurship advisory to kind of put everything together. And so that's where I came up with the idea of Pyratz Labs, being a startup studio or venture studio. Basically, we are a place where we help entrepreneurs do as minimum mistakes when they want to launch companies. And we very humbly share our experience in various fields, whether it is structuring the company, fundraising, sales, ops within the company to try to win time and be very focused on creating value for your product. And so to date, we have about 30 portfolio companies in Pyratz Labs. They generated more than 70 million of revenue, maybe raised 50 million of fundraising. And so we're very proud of that, and we're trying to further help the ecosystem. But we are tech people, So I don't like to think blockchain as an independent vertical. For me, it's more like a transversal vertical where it's like an infrastructure technology, and so we're trying to mix this with a lot of other technologies in a B2C, B2B, B2B2C manner, API gateways, and we try different things to try to push the ecosystem forward.
And also, I mean, you mentioned also the startup studio. I think it's good to mention the difference between a startup studio and a venture fund or a venture studio.
Yeah.
You guys are the first Web3 venture studio, startup studio. I mean, for me, because I had the experience in startup studio, and you mentioned that you guys are tech people and you put your hands on, you know. I think it's important to explain the difference with the startup studio.
So basically, the investors only invest. They advise on some strategic topic, operational topics, but very softly. Then you have the accelerators, which are basically offices that are sub-rented to a bunch of companies, so that there is an ecosystem, they're mixed together, but there is very few advisory. And then you get to an accelerator only once the company is created. We take the thing upside down, basically. Here at Pyratz Labs, we work on different stuff, and we try to find teams, founders to federate around those projects. And the value that we bring is that we say, okay, we've done it many times. With us, it will be faster, less mistakes, and more chance to succeed your fundraising, your go-to-market. And then, so that's kind of the concept. Then each concept, you bring your DNA with it. And our DNA is both entrepreneurial and technological. And in our entrepreneurship journey, we've seen that there are two things that are really critical. The first one, when you build a tech company, is tech. That's why we really want to help them on the tech side. And the second one is that often the teams, they lose a lot of time in everything that I call CFO. Basically, it's HR, legal, finance, and even though specifically when it's your first time building a company, you don't know shit about HR, about legal, about finance or accounting. And we said, okay, if we're able to support the companies on those two things, first, on the CFO, they will win a lot of time. And two, on the technology, they will do less mistakes. And you know, when a company needs to have momentum is both the ability to execute quickly, ability to find your product to go market quickly. And if you create this momentum, you can really fundraise quicker and federate a lot of people around them. So we try to recreate this Goldilocks elements.
And you mentioned the CFO job. I mean, obviously the cash flow management in a startup. A lot of startups actually disappear after 1-2 years because they are not able to manage.
Cash is king. We also try to learn to teach them that. I often say to the company when they come, I say, I don't want to see a business plan. I want to see a treasury plan on your next 6 months. And depending on the thoroughness of the treasury plan, you see directly if they are conscious of what they want to do.
And even more in tech as well, because a lot of people in tech don't have a finance background, so they are not able to directly understand the environment.
And I think even more with Web3 and blockchain, because now you have the token element, which brings a whole new thing. And so you have to think about the tokenomics, the listing, talk to exchange, market makers.
It's a dedicated job.
So it's a lot of work.
The treasury management aspect is very important. I mean, thank you, Bilal, for explaining Pyratz Labs. Just wanted to jump a bit with you, Julien. You know, at the BPI France, obviously a sovereign bank here in France. Very famous not only for Web3, but obviously for all tech. Obviously, you guys have built this fund of funds. Very interesting. You know, when I met you, I was very surprised that BPI France has a fund of funds dedicated to blockchain. That's something that you rarely see in other countries. So we'd love to have obviously your take on BPI, how you guys work, and how do you guys support companies from the ecosystem.
Well, in a nutshell, so as you said, BPI France is the sovereign fund, the French sovereign fund, and you can picture it with two branches. The first one is the financing, and the second one is the investing. So the one that many people know is the financing, because we are financing the whole French economy, mainly the French economy when it's come to financing, and it's a non-dilutive products such as loans, such as subventions, and other things, products like that. This is the big part of the mammoth. And then you have the investing part, when we do appear as a regular kind of fund. Well, yeah. And we have two parts of it, the direct part and the indirect part. The first one is basically a fund, meaning we do invest directly into startups. So we take stakes into these startups, so it's dilutive products.
Equity, token, how does it?
Well, BPI France is not a blockchain entity. So when we do invest directly into startups, it's through equity. And solely into equity. Well, there is a project, a little project, but it's not significant. So yeah, well, let's keep in mind that it's just equity, and then we have a lot of different strategies, and yeah, in BPI France, it's as much a strategic entity that a financial one, meaning, well, there is the whole thing of the sovereignty, right? On the and the ability to protect a few specialized industry. For instance, we have a dedicated strategy for the wood, French wood, actually. So it's just not just financial; it's also strategic. So, well, this was the direct part, and then you have the indirect part with the fund of fund, where I'm working. And within this fund of fund, well, as its name make it quite clear, we do invest into funds, and then these funds invest into startups.
Yeah.
And well, we have under management 17 billions euros under management for this fund of fund part.
Okay.
And
so 17 billion just for the blockchain fund of fund?
No,
this
is my point. This is my point.
That's
17 billion for the whole fund of fund.
Okay.
Each year, we do invest roughly 1.7 billion in all kinds of sectors, and the blockchain program, it represents 100 million.
Okay.
So, and we do invest. We plan to invest it in roughly 3 years.
Okay.
So, well, this is why I was mentioning this amount previously, because okay, these 17 billion under management and these 1.7 billion invested each year, it's a lot compared to these 100 million for the blockchain industry. But it has been decided for a quite good reason, is that the market is not ready for a bigger fund, for a bigger program. And a 100 million budget as a fund of fund is quite enough to support and to try to push the market in the right direction. The whole point of BPI France is not to be the market. Well, we cannot. We do not have the strength for it. But the whole point is to help right teams and right projects to get to the level they want to, and to grow fast enough to be competitive when it comes to the international competition.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the whole point of it. And we are currently deploying our capital into funds. Basically, they're mainly based in France, but also abroad.
Okay.
And the whole point of the strategy is to make sure that the VC ecosystem is thriving, and that the French and European ecosystem can keep his kind of advance when it comes to regulation, when it comes to startups evolutions, when it comes to the VC ecosystem. Well, yeah, that's the whole point of the program. And
yeah, very clear, very clear. And it just on the funds that are abroad that you come to invest in, what are the criteria? I mean, obviously they have to have a stake in companies in France. I mean, there has to be a relationship, right?
Of course. Well, yeah, because BPI France, it's the French sovereign fund, so we are not entitled to invest and have this strategic ambition abroad. So when we do invest abroad, it has to be into funds that are first best in class funds. We are used to invest in oversubscribed funds that we really like, top tier, yeah, and they also have to be able to invest into French ecosystem. Meaning, well, the proxy is when we do invest €1, we ask for €2 invested into the French ecosystem to make sure that, well, other funds can go to France, know the ecosystem, get involved into the ecosystem, and contribute to the evolution of it. And then, well, there's a lot of other condition, but the first main one is to be a top tier fund and to be involved into the French market.
Okay.
It doesn't mean to have boots on the ground. It doesn't mean that to have an office here, but it means that you know the market, you have some deal flow here, you know what's happening, you know the main opportunities, and etc.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, you need to bring value ecosystem.
Exactly.
Makes complete sense. Obviously, we do Carla. That is obviously part of a fund here in France. Obviously, a leading fund, Leadblock Partners. We'd love to have your take on how this ecosystem has evolved here in France. I know that Leadblock was first in the UK, right? And then you guys shifted out of France. We'd love to have your take on this as well. Why do you guys, obviously there's the Brexit element, but I'm sure there are other elements as well. So just have your take on this, and yeah, if you can give us also some portfolio companies that you guys invested, not only invested in France, but maybe also internationally, that are interesting for us to know.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, Leadblock started in 2019. We're a French team, but at the time we're based in the UK. And yeah, London seems to be a good place within Europe to start investing in blockchain. And then Brexit, but not necessarily Brexit. I think there's been really, the ecosystems here in France have been thriving. I think politicians have made a good job in terms of cutting some good deals with companies and attracting international leaders to come and set up in France. And so yeah, I mean, we still have our office in London, but we kind of move now our core activities in France, and it seemed to be the right thing to do. That being said, Web3 is very decentralized, so we do invest a bit everywhere, but definitely Europe and France is within our core. And just maybe a bit about, so Leadblock thesis has been about institutional and corporate adoption of blockchain technology and digital assets. So early on, we've been focusing on trying to identify tools, products, applications that would enable financial institutions, corporate, to interact with blockchain technology and digital assets. And so investment we've done, so yeah, maybe in France we've invested in Kiln, which is staking infrastructure. So they're working with wallets, exchanges, market makers, and kind of provide them with the entire infrastructure to allow them to propose staking products to their clients. They're working with ledgers, they're working with MetaMask Institutional, and yeah, I mean, they've been doing really well, especially with everything that's happened with lending in 2022. I think a lot of people kind of switched to staking as a way to get a risk-free yield, and so I think they went from $600 million US dollars being staked through the platform to like 3.5 billion in about a year, which is quite good. And now they're expanding to Asia and they're looking at other geographies.
Also portfolio company.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I had to mention it.
we're pretty active. I remember when I came for ETC. They had their office, open to everyone, and obviously
they have a really nice office.
Nice office, met the team, great guys as well.
Actually, my first company, EquiSafe, started there. Then Pyratz Labs started there. Then Dogeny started there.
Nice. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's an overall ecosystem. You guys all know each other. For you guys it makes sense. And yeah, obviously met Kiln, met also Hex Trust as well. Obviously, like we had the podcast in Dubai with Jeff. So yeah, we're very familiar with the kind of companies. But yeah, I mean, outside of obviously the thesis, we'd love to understand how you try to position Leadblock, in the French ecosystem. I don't know, like I know some funds in France, but not all of them. And I don't know how many funds. Do you have any idea of? You should know.
I should. How many funds?
How many funds, like blockchain fund and I would say regulated in
Europe or in France?
In France, yeah.
Regulated. Well, I should. I would say we are.
Oh, you said 5.
Funds
Okay.
that have
Around
a blockchain thesis, yeah, I would say 5 to 7 maximum.
Yeah,
maybe.
just a few.
So you mean blockchain thesis? So the one that only
But-
invests in blockchain?
No. One of their thesis is blockchain, or they accept to invest in blockchain
Yeah.
companies.
But the thing is, a lot of funds, generalists, they do not have a proper strategy, but they know that this is the future. They still have to get knowledge about it. So what they're doing is that they get their flagship fund, and then a few investors aware of what's going on, they create SPV, special purpose vehicle, and then they do some quick and proper investment.
Syndications.
Exactly, and so that they can
Create a track record.
Exactly. Create the track record and stay, gather all of the knowledge of the market so that when they want to, for real, create the strategy, well, they are aware and able to do it. So maybe I would say a few more. I would say between 15 and 20, I would say. Something like that. 20, it's a lot. 20, it's a lot.
And do you guys interact a lot with like VC funds out of the US? I mean, I was part of a fund as well before, and I know the environment and how it works. The US ecosystem is obviously very developed. You guys interact?
We do. We do. And actually, there is something huge, a huge gap between United States and France and Europe. Actually, one metrics that quite clear that I like to bring is that at the beginning of this year, of the previous year, 2023, in Europe there were something like 7,000 startups in crypto and Web3. Before 1 million of revenues. Okay, so backed by VC and not backed by VC. Roughly 7,000. In the United States, it was roughly 6,000. So more startups in Europe than in the United States regarding this industry. At the same time, regarding the funds, the biggest fund in the United States is ACTZ, 4.5 billion assets under management. The second one is Paradigm, 2.5 billion, and well, a lot of them more than 1 billion. In Europe, it's depending, but Greenfield and Fabric, for instance, but it's less than 200 million. Less than 200 million versus these 4.5 billion. So you have more startups in Europe, in crypto, in this industry, but at the same time, you have a 20x difference between funds and based in Europe and based in. So the consequence of it, quite obvious, is that when you analyze a regular roundtable of a regular seed roundtable between 1 and 4 million, well, you have an over-representation of these American funds into our round. In a regular tech round, US funds represent roughly 7-8%, whereas in a crypto seed round, it represents more than 20%. So, well, they know it. We have great engineers, we have a lot of entrepreneurs here, so a lot of funds back in the United States, they come here to chase and to have some great opportunities, and not very competitive because our funds are not that big. So they can have great opportunities, quite cheap, so it's great for them. And so, yeah, obviously, we're talking a lot with them. And for us, the point is not to be like, okay, let's not accept them here. Definitely not. The whole point is to make sure that they bring value, that they bring capital, but not just capital, also value. And because if they invest into a company and then all of the management of the company is going to the United States, well, here we have a problem. But if they bring capital, they allow them to expand internationally, but the headquarters stay in Europe, well, it's great. It's great for our ecosystem. So yeah, we are talking a lot with them, but trying to make it good for the whole ecosystem and not to lose all of the value that we are currently building.
But I do think that they do recognize the opportunity of Europe and France. I mean, X16Z just opened an office in London.
Okay.
Greenfield is going more into France. I guess there's some momentum, so we have to build upon it.
Yeah, I mean, we hear a lot. I mean, obviously, as based in Dubai, Bilal, you're pretty often there as well. But we hear a lot. Obviously, the advocate for the French ecosystem. We hear a lot of people talking about France as a Web3 friendly country, and that's something I'm looking closely, because obviously I'm based in Dubai but originally French, and and I know that there are a lot of tech people here in France, and there's been a lot of issues with tech companies raising funds and leaving France for the US because of the capital access in the US. But just would love to have your takes, you guys, obviously on the French ecosystem, and what do you think are the steps for the country to become a Web3 leader? Obviously, there's a regulation side, but other factors. Maybe Bilal, if you have a take on that.
Well, first let's try to understand why France is such a hot spot. I think there are three reasons. The first one, you mentioned it, they are amazing engineers. And I want to say that since COVID, a lot of engineers are staying in France, even coming back to France. So there's a huge concentration of knowledge and technical knowledge here. The second reason is that since Brexit, the new financial hotspot is definitely Paris. We've heard all those banks moving their teams to Paris, or choosing Paris as their new European headquarters. And I think it helps a lot because there is a lot of financial literacy in the place. And the third reason is that in Europe, the two main capitals are France and Germany. In Europe continental. And Germany had a really good momentum in 2010 with SaaS and all those trends, a little bit less with Web3, so that the only survivor is basically France. And if you combine those three things, it makes France very, very, very attractive. So that's the main reason. And then how could France do even better? I think it's the job of attracting more international capital to invest here, because, like you said, this 20 ratio between the US and France makes also actually our rounds very attractive, because we're raising less money to a smaller valuation, and so it's very attractive for the investors. But I would love to top up kind of and play in the same game as the US, and it's coming because there are those European regulations that are going to homogenize the regulation around the whole Europe, which will make France a gateway to a European market and not just France and French market. And this regulation and this forward thinking of our regulator is going on the right way, and we're very all eager to see how all this will implement.
Julien, do you have any?
Well, yeah, 100% agree of what you said. I think that we are on a good way, namely regarding the regulation. A lot of funds, Americans one, are very pleased to see that our regulatory framework is clearer than what's happening in the United States. So it's something that is definitely going on the good way. But at the same time, let's be honest. Americans are better than we are when it comes to create a narrative and create the FOMO around something. And it's also about the culture. This is not going to change for sure. But I think that we didn't take the virage, for the internet during the 2000s years. And if we want to take this one, I think that we should play with our own strength, meaning definitely not creating the FOMO and being very international and being an American, actually. So we're definitely not going to be them. But we have great engineers, great entrepreneurs. So let's be pragmatic and find a great way to optimize things, optimize product, and create value within our organization. And it's just big words and buzzwords, but very for illustrative. Well,
Yeah.
to give an example, for instance, well, this initiative of the European Central Bank, Cash Plus, the digital euro, I think that this is something that can be a game changer, meaning, well, we are definitely using blockchain to make all of our transactions more efficient, more transparent, and change our system in its core. And this is something where we are good at creating regulation, creating institutions, regional institutions, and being able to work together with a lot of different countries. And this is something that we are good at because we are Europe, right? So, well, yeah, this is us. So let's try to use this technology and bring it through our own features, kind of. And I think that if we master it, then it's going to be global easily because, well, if you know how to use well, the central bank for sure, but then a secondary bank, BNP, Société Générale, and Forge is a great example with their convertible coin, which is on an exchange. Well, we are quite ahead when it comes to create this bridge between institutions and this technology. So I think that, yeah, it's a one way and one solution to be internationally competitive, to make sure that these institutions grasp all of the value of the technology, and then creating startups able to spread it all over the ecosystem and the economy and all over the real economy.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And yeah, we'd love also to have your take, Carla, on the VC funds in France. How do you think VC funds can be more competitive towards American funds, and also in terms of like fundraising? Obviously, it's a subject that's very important for every fund manager. How hard it is to fundraise for a venture capital fund. How hard it is in France particularly? Like, is it do you see a lot of like deployment from LPs in venture funds? Yeah, just have your take on that.
Yes. So just maybe building upon what has been said. I think in order to stay competitive in France, so we've done really good in terms of regulation and providing a clear framework. I think we just have to make sure that we're able to enforce that. And for example, for VCs, in order to stay competitive, I mean, as I mentioned, the token element is key. And in France, it's still a bit of a work in progress to be able to invest. I mean, if you have a fund regulated in France, to be able to invest in tokens. And I mean, that's not really possible if you want to stay competitive and you want to invest in Web3 startups. Then there's a bit of a blur in between whether you can invest in tokens or not. That's just a bit of a shame, to be honest.
There are some funds that I mean, I was thinking. What was the?
I know them.
You tell me, but if it's something that's happening, I've heard what was the name of this?
I think Ledger and Kate and Exchange got the license.
Exchange too.
Yeah, but
Exchange, yeah. But is it like only in France that you see that happening? Like funds getting licenses?
It's actually an extension of agreement.
Okay.
Meaning that they are able to invest through tokens.
Okay.
But the thing is, this extension is not comprehensive, so it doesn't take into account all of the stage of the investment.
Non-listed tokens.
So actually, you can invest into tokens, but when you confront this regulation to the reality of an investor, well, it doesn't work. So still some work to do.
Yeah.
Still some work to do from the regulator, but people are working on it.
Yeah, it's
if I can add something on this because it's very interesting. Historically, an asset manager or private asset manager or VC funds clearly invest in private companies. So they have really long timelines of holding positions because there is lacking liquidity. When you invest in the tokens, on top of the regulated aspect of how you register it, track the price, blah, 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 there is the fact that you're managing kind of like your publicly listed shares. Yeah. And it's not the same way you manage, you do the asset management. In the US, they more have this DNA of hedge funds and and public markets, which in France we don't have. So the funds, on top of having the right regulation set up, they also have to hire the right people to know how to manage those tokens and those liquidities. So it makes it even harder for us to invest in tokens. But there are great token investors everywhere in the world, and also a lot of funds that are structured outside of Europe but invest in Europe that can also do it. So.
But isn't it one of the problematic from the last bear markets? I mean, we've seen with 3 Hours Capital, for example, funds that are venture funds, but in the meantime that are hedge funds. Isn't it the problematic that they are actually mixing both of them? Well, it's two different type of investments. If someone LP invests in a venture fund, is looking for obviously a longer time horizon for to get the investment back. On tokens, much riskier with the hedge funds. How a venture capital fund manager can manage, obviously a hedge fund strategy. Obviously, you mentioned it, you need to hire the right people. Yeah. But we've seen things like 3 Hours Capital, and I guess that's why people.
First of all, is that there are a lot of conflicts of interest, and the first layer of regulation is also to mitigate the risk of conflict of interest. So that's the first thing. The conflict of interest is you're holding a long position and also a volatile one, and so if you sell your short position, you will impact your long position. So there must be clear mitigation of this conflict of interest. The funds that are structured abroad, like Alameda, like 3 Arrows Capital, they were very aggressive, not caring about the risk management and this conflict of interest, and it impacted badly the ecosystem. That's why regulation is more than welcome. But it's not going. There is no perfect answer to this.
Yes, and I think it was also a bit of the early days of tokens. So projects were still trying to figure out ways to protect them. I think more and more we're seeing vesting periods. So even though you have a very short time before the launch of a token, maybe you still have to hold the tokens for 18 months, 2 years, and you can just not drop all your tokens at one time. So I think we're going to see more and more but more coming from the project side of things, maybe trying to see.
It's also a mark of seriousness.
Yes. And, but I think it's two different investment theses. I mean, a hedge fund and a VC. And it's also, what you pitch to your investors or LPs and your investment thesis. Our thesis is very, as I mentioned, institutional and corporate adoption of things. We can invest in tokens. Definitely, if we look at Fund 1, we invested more in equity side of things. We'll be looking more into tokens for Fund 2, but I guess there'll be all those protections. We would not be doing pump and dump, maybe strategies for sure.
I think it's a big issue. I mean, I actually, when I was analyst in the fund of funds, we had positions in different VC funds, top tier out of the US. Well, I will not mention the names because one of them was token only, obviously, and a lot of non-liquid tokens. Then you have obviously Terra happens, everything's going down, and our fund manager, the head of the family office, comes to us and okay, what's the NAV on all the investments with the token, because there's a possibility to see the token listed and be able to calculate a NAV. But it's super tricky, because you build a model, you have some that are non-listed, you have some that are listed. I had a discussion with fund managers how to better explain to LPs that don't know, that are not familiar with tokens, what's the current state of the portfolio. And I think it's a big subject. I think a lot of fund managers are talking about it when it comes to token investments, because with equity, obviously, you have exit or you have the round.
New markets.
New markets, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's a big.
But actually, it's our job as an investor, just creating and do valuation, right? And doing valuation with all of different and evolving context, economic conjecture, and bringing on the table tokens and token valuation. It's even more complex for sure, but just just the economy. Like the context is evolving, and you have to adapt your way of doing the valuation. And the one who are the more thorough and precise regarding this valuation, well, they are the best investor, right? So, well, it's our job to be more precise, as precise as we could.
Yeah.
And taking into account.
What I like with the token valuation actually is that, you know, in traditional VC funds, each time you were doing a fundraising, there is a new markup, so the NAV of your fund is growing, which I think is not really fair and transparent towards the LPs, because it doesn't take into account, it just takes into account the last valuation round.
Sure.
Whereas on the token side, you know, you have a lot of attention around the project that is basically measured a lot with the tokens. And if there is a company that hasn't been delivering for like 6-9 months, the token is going down. And indeed, it reflects the momentum of the company, because it means she has less cash, it means she's not doing what she pretended. And so we need to educate the investors on that. And for me, the main argument is to say, okay, it's more scary because, but it's more stressful.
What do you mean?
It's more trustful because it reflects the real stage of the company. Whereas there is a company, you know, I invested in a company that went from 7 million to 150 million, and now it's closed.
Yeah, but actually, I have my take on that. I think it's very difficult also to value. I mean, you talk about delivery from founders. We all know that, you know, there are companies that issue tokens, and you have a lot of FOMO, and they don't necessarily know what's happening within the company. So it can be tricky, because there's a reason why you have private companies and public companies, right? And now we assist more and more to the opening.
Yeah, no, but create more FOMO on 1, 2, 3 months. It's relatively easy. Keep the FOMO for 9 months, 1 year. It's impossible.
That's one of the thesis of people that only invest in.
If you're not executing and delivering.
No, that's for sure.
And this is why we think that when you invest into a fund able to do both token and equity, it means that it just grasps a comprehensive view of the company and a comprehensive set of skills to invest. Meaning you have all of the value coming from the equity, a long run, and at the same time you are deeply involved into the project so that you can grasp this more short-term added value from token. It's more difficult for sure, but you can, at the end of it, you can have more value added and a better performance.
Yeah. And also, like with all the LWA, you know, trends happening, we see a lot of companies that start, you know, tokenizing their equity. So I'm sure that in the next years we can assist more and more companies, even not necessarily crypto companies, but that are tokenizing their equity. Obviously to share, to attract more capital within the company. I think it's something that's going to be interesting in the coming years. But yeah, I mean, we'd love to talk now a bit more about, you know, some trends, recent trends. Obviously, we're in 2024 now. To have your take on obviously the venture investments in 2022, 2023, so 2023 versus 2022, and what do you expect in 2024 to happen? So on the VC side, but also on the retail side, do you think, obviously the question of like, do you think there's going to be a bull run or not? That's not what I'm asking. Do you think there's going to be more and more capital with all the trends flowing into the industry? We'd love to have your take on 2024.
Yes, maybe I can start, but from a VC perspective, but I think a big trend that we've been seeing in 2023 or maybe end of 2022 is that a lot of VC kind of shifted their focus to what we call infrastructure, which is a broad topic, but into more kind of, we've seen with everything that happened, a lot of retail's kind of left or the ecosystem. And so there's been a big shift into kind of financing more B2B type of projects that were building the rails to onboard in the futures users within the ecosystem. And so they were looking into tools for developers, tools for businesses, financial institutions. So a big chunk of capital that was invested, I would say, in the past 18 months have been around this narrative. And I think we've done a good job into kind of making these infrastructures, the technology better, And so I think I'm really hoping that for 2024, we focus more on the next leg, which is more of the middleware application. So know that we have a tech that is more efficient, more effective, and then we need to bring the capital to users. So really kind of building those killer app to try and bring financial institutions, users on board. I think that will be a big trend.
Yeah, because I mean, with Leadblock, the institutional thesis really worked for you guys. I mean, there's a lot of companies that are successful on the institutional side, and I'm sure when you look at the trends, sometimes you might reposition yourself, or obviously staying in the institutional side. But you mentioned infrastructure, middleware. I'm sure, like with the time, you might sometimes redirect your thesis, I guess.
Yes, I mean we try definitely to stay on top of things, and that goes maybe to all of our discussions we have with financial institutions, corporates, or other kind of people in the ecosystem, try to understand what type of tools they're looking at, what type of applications they want to use, or things that are missing. So trying to stay on top of that is very important. That infrastructure part was very key for Fund 1. Now we're looking more into like applications, and so definitely Fund 1 we're looking into. I would say that first step for maybe people to come into the ecosystem, that was more of like the centralized part. So we invested in Bitpanda, which is a centralized exchange. We invested in Hextrust, which is a custodian. We invested in Talos, which is trading infrastructure. So done all of that first part, and now we've been looking more into like that CDeFi or DeFi to really kind of onboard those users into the crypto blockchain ecosystem.
Are you planning also to maybe redirect also the stage of investments? Maybe because I know that you guys have been focusing a lot on the acceleration stage. Maybe like more seeds. Maybe we see more seed companies coming.
Yes, for sure. I think definitely early stage projects have been the one that managed to grasp most of the capital. I guess just because 2021, 2022. A lot of, I think we had in 2021 30 billion invested in the ecosystem, and so a lot of companies managed to raise at great valuation, and with everything that happened, valuation kind of decreased. So a lot of them try to improve margin, cut costs, increase runway to kind of wait for the next wave to be able to raise capital at a better valuation than what they raised before. But for more early stage projects and like pre-seed seed companies that had never raised before, I mean, you're betting on the team and their vision, and you're hoping that by when the market gets up, they'll be able to do well, and then you'll be able to make a markup. So definitely those have been the one that managed to grasp most of the capital. And we've been seeing a lot of interesting early stage projects. I think growth stage is more or less on hold at the moment. So definitely we'll be focusing more on that early stage part of the ecosystem at the moment.
Just like to add to the growth stage, I've been speaking with a lot of funds, tier 2 funds. I would say top tier funds are always investing in early growth stage, but a lot of tier 2 funds that are telling me that they are right now focusing mainly on their portfolio companies, because they see obviously maybe some traction coming up with a potential bull run, and they want those companies to be ready, right? And obviously some treasury management and help them to just to be ready for the next bull run. So I feel maybe it depends also from which funds investing.
Yeah, but I mean definitely at Leadblock with our thesis, we've always tried to be very active with portfolio companies. Our vision was more to have a concentrated portfolio. So Fund 1 we invested in 18 companies, but to be super hands-on with them. And I guess the value we try to bring is that, as well as having been in the ecosystem for quite a while, we also have the connections to those financial institutions and corporates that are not yet in the ecosystem, but that could be potential clients to our portfolio companies. So that's been one in terms of BD development, but everything around as well, more strategic matters, operations, that we've definitely tried to help as well. But we'll still be doing that, and we'll still be deploying as well.
Julien, do you have any 2024 resolutions? Or?
You wanted to add something?
I wanted to build up on what Carla said. It's very interesting. when you have this contraction of the economy, so it means the interest rates high, less loan. It means people are not spending someone else's money anymore. So they are consuming less, and all the business that are consumer focused, like marketplaces, retail, B2C stuff, you will see that there is less and less activity, and we've seen that on OpenSea, for example, where it was divided the volumes by 90%. But marketplaces, it's like consumer facing. Less people also investing into DeFi, etc., and more into B2B business models that are, SaaS or recurring, because it's safer. Now the market is re-picking a little bit up, and by re-picking up, I mean there is more trust, there is more money coming in, and so this will reactivate the B2C and consumer-facing app. So I think from 2024 we will see more fundraising focus on something else than infrastructure, basically.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I really hope so as well, because I mean the past 18 months we've had some ups and downs, and we thought it was going to be better, but it was not really. My take also is that with the current technological stack, so I mean features, protocols, etc., we've covered a lot of use cases. So now I'm eager to see a new feature coming in, something new that will open the door to new use cases. I don't know, for example, when the standard for NFT existed, then people started doing digital product, NFT, gaming, etc. A little bit same in DeFi. When the people came up with the AMM, it opens the door to lending, leveraging, all sorts of collateralization. So I'm really eager, and I think in 2024 we will see something new that will open. Honestly, I don't know.
You think kind of maybe of AI and LLMs. A lot of people are talking about the AI wave maybe coming to could help.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I think blockchain and AI are very different in what they bring, and they can definitely live together, because AI needs certified data and blockchain is certified data. So it makes sense that they've been mixing, and they will be opening up a lot of use cases in pharmaceuticals and finance and other industry. So yeah, that's actually a very good point.
Yeah, I mean a lot of people also like talk about the UX side. I mean, crypto has been very. I mean, the Web3 industry has been very. It's been very challenging for them to have the right UX, and obviously the infrastructure is here, right? But obviously users don't want to. They don't care about whether it's blockchain or not. They just want the utility, and with AI, I feel like the utility is there. People can use it pretty quickly.
Even more, I would say that mixing blockchain with something else will only democratize Web3. Because today a lot of DeFi, it's like blockchain vertical stuff. Yeah. If you're not into blockchain, you don't understand. Yeah. And so mixing it with it means other people will see the value that it brings. Yeah. And that's definitely a good thing.
But maybe, building a parallel to this, I guess AI has been around for a very long time, and the launch of that first kind of ChatGPT application, that was really a killer app and managed to onboard a lot of users into the AI wave, and so anyone on their laptop could try AI, and that was revolutionary. So I'm really hoping that for blockchain, we also kind of find one among many applications that manage to onboard a lot of users. And blockchain, as you mentioned, I mean, everyone's talking about the tech component, but today, I mean, we're interacting with internet on a regular basis, emails, chat, whatever, and not many people know how the internet protocol works. And I guess we have to find similar ways to get people to interact with blockchain without really having that mindset of we have to understand the tech and we have to understand how it works. It has to be hidden.
I love this point. I love this point because in Web3, for me, the previous bull run was triggered by Sora. Everybody understood Sora, and the growth of Sora makes it so compelling that the gravity attracted everybody else. Yeah. It's the same for AI. It's ChatGPT and OpenAI who had such an amazing growth and such understandable and brilliant product that it attracted the whole trend around AI. And actually AI, when you go deep in it, because I'm a mathematician, I used to be an AI and data scientist, it's not that advanced in the sense that, for example, ChatGPT, if you push it really after 3-4 questions, it starts saying nonsense.
Yeah.
So it's not that mature, but something, and it was the same with Sora and blockchain, but something, those companies triggered, the growth of those companies triggered the market. And yeah, I wish there is a new company that will trigger the market in 2024.
I think, not sure, but an idea that kind of chiller app may already be here, and not sure definitely, but all of the stable coin that we see, it could be this chiller app that we are looking for, but actually it's already here. Going back to this Cash Plus initiative from the European Central Bank, well, it's a very central initiative, but it could influence and impact millions of people. I mean, all of the European guys. Yeah. And it could be a new way of interact, truly global, and it could, well, create, I mean, the real use case, meaning, okay, you are sending money all over the world quickly, I mean, instantly, and when you are doing business in a global business, it's something huge. And I think that a lot of companies will see the utility of blockchain and not just, well, all of the industry, like meaning the metaverse, meaning Web3, etc. But just, okay, it's blockchain. It's a new way to do transaction, way quicker than you were doing before. And maybe it could be, I mean, maybe it's not going to be the chiller app just like ChatGPT, but at least I think it's going to contribute to the changement of the mindset for those people in the Web3 or kind of previous world. And yeah, and to answer to your question about the 2023 environment, it was a tough year. Like,
you went from inside.
Yeah, for real. Like, fundraising was difficult for everyone. And all of it was just about surviving. And
taking the right decisions.
And taking the right decision to survive. So we're at BPI France. We are the sovereign fund, so obviously we're not struggling for surviving, but our role was even more important and crucial during this period, because the whole point was not to be contracyclic, meaning invest more during this bear market, but it was to invest at the same path, at the same and steady way. So be kind of monocyclic, I mean, and keep it steady. But still, it was difficult, and I think and hope that next year, this 2024 year, it's going to be a bit. I think, not sure once again, but I think it's going to be the beginning of the new thing, a new cycle, and mainly thanks to the institutionalization of the industry, where JP Morgan with the ONITS project and the tokenized collateral network, it's a huge project, quite clear about the use case, meaning doing and bringing some real enhancements of the industry and the market. Cash Plus from the European Central Bank again, Convertible from Societe Generale. A lot of institutionals are doing stuffs, and at the same time, as you mentioned, the real world assets vertical is gaining momentum, and I think it's going to be a way for the retail investors to understand how blockchain can be used, meaning, well, you can invest in your just next door company and invest into its equity quite easily through a few clicks, or you can invest into, well, in a lot of things, out of the real world assets. So I think the mix between these institutional adoption and the real world assets vertical is going to create something to democratize a bit more the whole industry and all of the use cases, different use cases that can appear in the coming months.
Yeah, no, there's definitely great trends obviously that we've seen emerging from this bear market as well. I think also we talk about a lot about the ETF side. That could be a great liquidity event for crypto. And I was watching the news last time, and Hong Kong is also fighting for. I mean, they have a fighting for ETF, Bitcoin ETF. I don't know the name of the entity. And obviously we're waiting for Vanguard, for BlackRock. Yeah, I mean, in Europe and in France, obviously we I don't know if we discuss so much about ETFs. It's really the culture as well, but just like, is there something being done? And do you think,
I have some mixed feeling about it. I think that is going to be huge. A lot of money is going to flow into the market, but for now, I'm a bit afraid of just a real opportunistic window that could open, and with trillions of dollars coming to the market, and then within 1 year going out, because they would have take their markup and then, okay, I'm out. I think, and I really hope that it's going to be for long run and for the real economy and real initiatives, and not just a pure disconnected thing, not bringing kind of real value, and not. I mean, the whole point is not just to create financial value. And actually, I wanted to say that at the during this talk about the use of the blockchain and the use of the industry, and we are basically trying to create a new kind of paradigm of interaction Well, I think that it's important to bring new value too, and doing sustainable initiatives and doing investments, implementing all of the impact aspect and features of it. It's important, and using blockchain to do easier and cleaner impact initiatives, it's going to be key. And I think that our generation is a bit more keen and wants to have a bit more of initiatives and sustainable initiatives, and being more involved and being more connected directly into these initiatives. And blockchain is a way to do it. And I do not see enough, well, it's just subjective, but projects doing impact investments and impact initiatives using blockchain. And I think that it could also be a way to democratize the industry, because it could be part of the new main challenge for the next 15 years. I mean, the next decades. It's going to be the sustainable, changing our way of working and living in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
And doing so, it's not going to be about the centralization. I mean, well, we know our world, we know how the capitalism, how it works, and we know that it definitely needs to be changed in its core, and
it needs more compassion.
Yeah,
I mean, it works for the US, for example, but I mean, like the element of blockchain, and the sustainable element is in the access, the social aspect. I feel environmental is one thing, but the social aspect, blockchain and you mentioned stable coins, can open access to economies that, let's say, emerging economies that have currencies depleting. I mean, we've seen what's happening in Argentina, and all those countries actually are in favor. I'm not going to talk about the Salvador, but and the Salvador is doing great right now with Bitcoin. I think the social aspect, we don't talk enough about it. I don't know because we don't know. I mean, we're in Europe. We use the dollar, or we have currencies. We're fine with our currencies. But when you go to Lebanon, for example, and I speak a lot with Lebanese, a lot of Lebanese people in Dubai, and their currencies is just like going to
and for them, stablecoin is key. It's like it's game changer for them. So, but and for Lebanese guys and girls and population, actually it's game changer. But also for a lot of African countries. Actually, Ghana and Nigeria, they just decided to use the franc CFA as a money just a few days ago because we're out of the stability of it. But if a new way using blockchain was an option, I'm sure that they were. I mean, I don't know if they would accept it, but they are eager to find a way to do transaction in a stable way, and stable coins are definitely a way to do it. Latino countries too. Well, this is economic part and economic point of view, but at the same, once again, for the impact and for the sustainable way of doing transactions, I also think that while being in France right here, if I do want to have an impact in, I don't know, somewhere in Africa or somewhere in South America, something like that, well, I do not have a direct link between me and between an initiative over there. Using blockchain, it could change, and I think that's something that's going to be important.
Yeah, definitely. I think every emerging country could be definitely a big play for blockchain, especially if you think of all those people that left their countries and came to work in, I don't know, Europe, France, and now they're paying around 7% to kind of send money back to their families. And so with blockchain, you can make that much more cheaper, much more quicker. So there's definitely a lot of interesting things around not just crypto, but more of the blockchain element itself.
Yeah.
And impact is definitely one. I think blockchain is known for traceability, transparency, immutability, and so there's definitely there's been a big pickup in terms of more the financial aspect of blockchain and crypto, but there's a lot of more enterprise use cases around supply chain traceability in food, in metals, minerals, electric vehicles, EV batteries. I mean, there's a lot of potential, and that's where we first started to invest with Leadblock around that kind of thesis. And then, I mean, as you mentioned, we had to adapt, and the financial narrative definitely pick up a bit more, but there's definitely, we see a big opportunity there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just to also to jump back on the social aspect, I was discussing with some guys in Dubai. They were building on the Ton network. They're big there in Dubai, and obviously on the Telegram blockchain on Telegram. And they had this thing where you're just on Telegram and you can access directly to fundraising for help children in Nigeria, or they have this thing where you can directly invest directly on Telegram. So just put your wallet and invest directly on the Ton network. That was interesting. I don't know what they are heading at right now, but that was pretty interesting. Do you have anything on the? Obviously, we mentioned the ETF, but
I think it's fair you're right in mentioning impact. And impact is more than just sustainability and green investment. It's about social. It's about how to bring trust, how to bring accessibility to financial services in remote areas. There is a balance between the opportunity that it constitutes and the adoption level on site. For example, in Africa, the internet is not the best everywhere, so cannot do exactly what you want. But Starlink is coming, and very soon there will be also an opportunity. That's why, for me, indeed, the remittance, for example, it's a no-brainer. But is there a company doing that is known by everyone, or that is the market leader?
Yeah. No.
I cannot quote
Western Union, but it's definitely Web2.
That's why I say that it makes a lot of sense for them, but they don't have the right stacks to be ready. But definitely something to keep in mind. I'm the first one. Also, I'm the son of an immigrant family. I want to do stuff in Africa. I want to help the others, but the regulation is not ready. The technology is not ready. It's not the same way of doing business in those countries as it is in Europe. So I've been focusing in France not because I don't want to have an impact, but rather because I know that here is where I can have the most impact right now. But definitely keeping on mind that, and I think all our generation, like you said, have this in mind. We're just waiting for the right opportunity to make the difference.
Yeah, no, agreed. Well, I think we touched base on all the points. It was great to have you guys obviously and discuss different topics. I mean, we're always in Dubai and discuss about the network here there. But yeah, it was great to have you. Thank you so much for coming and yeah, hope to see you maybe next Token 2049 you come to Dubai maybe.
Yeah,
Yes.
hope so.
We'll be there. Yes.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much,
thank you
Thanks a
for
lot,
having
Gauthier.
us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy.
All right.
Beyond the Tech is brought to you by Block Sapiens, a leader in fund and venture capital investment. If you've enjoyed this show, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Learn more at blocksapiens.io. While we take reasonable care to select recognized experts for our podcast, please know that each podcast represents the independent opinion of such experts only and not Block Sapiens. We make no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information provided. Any reliance on the podcast information is at your own risk. The podcast is for general information only and cannot be considered legal or professional advice.